So welcome
Yeah.
back to the Dogs and Deadlifts podcast. Today we have Paul Constantino from Melbourne. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Mate, not a problem whatsoever. It's been a bit of a journey, but we've finally got there. We've been friends on Facebook and etc. and talked quite a number of
Yeah.
times. But super stoked, to have you here. It's what 5 a.m. We're in Australia, both in Queensland and Victoria. So we've jumped up early
Yep.
to get a head start on it, mate.
Well, so 5 a.m. We should be used to getting up, both having twins.
I know, right? I know. I was going to talk about that. My boys are just hit 12 months on last weekend, so it's been super exciting. It certainly has its
Congratulations, mate.
thanks. Certainly has its ups and downs, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, mine are only 2 weeks older than yours, and it's been crazy.
Yeah,
So,
no, but wouldn't have it any other way though. A bit of
no, no, not at
a bit of a surprise, but it's been great,
all.
mate.
No,
Let,
that's great.
let's jump in if that's okay. For those,
Absolutely.
we'll spend a little bit of time talking about yourself and your dog Lenny. And can you just give us a bit of a rundown about yourself, what you get up to, primarily,
Absolutely.
obviously based in Melbourne. So take it away.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll start with my boy Lenny. He does all the hard work. So he's a 6-year-old bull terrier.
Yep.
He's a typical bully. He's lazy. He's crazy. He does whatever he needs to do in bull terrier time. So he's
Yeah.
not. He wouldn't be your normal typical canine athlete.
Yep.
As a bull terrier goes. He's most bullies are overweight. Lenny's probably the total opposite, but we do a lot of sport with him. He loves he loves lure. He loves flirt pole.
Yep.
But we've been doing that since day one. So that's what he knows.
Yeah.
Haven't really given him a chance to just become a really lazy dog.
Yeah.
He's got his two favorite mates, which is Obie and Billy, which are both Amstaffs.
Yeah. Okay.
That he likes to hang out with.
Yep.
And he's just a good natured all round dog.
Yeah.
Yep. It's taken me a little while to find a bully like that.
Yeah.
But he's absolutely awesome.
A good friend of mine just got a pup actually from a working bully. My mate down in Melbourne as well, and he's a good-looking little puppy. Bit, obviously primarily used for a bit of hunting work, but super good-looking little pup. I love my previous dog Sunday was I adopted her as she was supposed to be a staffy, mate, but she turned out to look like a bull terrier cross Kelpie,
Yep.
She
was the all white one.
Yeah, all white.
Yeah.
She was born deaf. So when I went to the rescue organisation, they said, "Yeah, we've got a little bull terrier here. She's a bull." She wasn't. They didn't call her a bull terrier. They called her a staffy, actually. Just a. We've got a little staffy here. I said, all right, okay, give me a look. Oh yeah, but she's deaf. I went, oh, that's fine. I'll I loved her. She had good prey drive, and just nothing sort of phased her. Absolutely loved her. Yeah.
No, it's good. No, they're great dogs, and I think more of them need to be in sporting events.
Yeah. Look, I'd love to. Yeah, definitely love to see some more getting around for sure. I remember, it must have been 10 years ago. There was quite a number of bullies getting around, and then they sort of phased away, and then I seen everyone with these American staffies at the time. So it was a bit of a phase. Hey, like it was bull terriers, and then then they went to these blue staffies. They were all the rage, at one stage, weren't they? So yeah, you didn't see too many Roman noses anymore, and then you've seen all these American blue staffies getting around.
Yeah, you're right. It is true. It does go through stages and phases, and now I just look at which sporting dog is going to suit my family now, and what sports can I do with them.
Yeah, look, I agree. So like what I was into Malamars at one stage, hey, and that I just with the twins now and the boys, I just decided I wanted to move away from that particular breed.
Yep.
So moved away from Malamars and have GSPs now, but certainly the bullies or finding the right one is just would you agree that finding the right one for the job is going to be a bit of a needle in a haystack?
It is, absolutely. Yep, it certainly is. I mean, I've been lucky enough to probably have two bullies that would have been, Lenny included, he's great at weight pull and sports.
Yeah,
I had another dog, which I'll run through a little bit later about.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's to find a bully that's going to be spot on. He's quite hard, I think, especially for sporting.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, you got Lenny. You're based on the east side of Melbourne.
Yeah, so we're on the pretty much the Mornington Peninsula. So
Yep.
we're lucky enough that we've got the KCC Park not too far from home.
Yep.
Which I found out run weight pull events. So we spent a fair bit of time down there training and just general fitness down there. There's a couple of nice leash-free, like private leash-free parks, and we can take your dog. If you remember down there, you can go there anytime and use the leash-free parks, which is great for training.
Yeah, no, awesome. All right, mate, let's say, so I suppose we'll just jump straight into weight pull, and well, I suppose before even weight pull, but how did you get started with I suppose the Amstaff Club in Victoria, and then how did that progress to doing weight pull events and things like that, mate?
Okay, so I'll start off with, I got into weight pull just by, well, I started off with a rescue bully.
Yeah.
She had a lot of anxiety issues. She'd been cooped up in her backyard. She was 15 months old, and 12 months of that, she'd never seen another person, another dog. So she had some really serious behavioural issues.
Yep.
So I thought of, what can I do to give her an outlet, give her something to do so she wasn't so destructive.
Yep.
So I got onto Google, like everyone does, found YouTube, and found people doing weight pull in the States.
Okay.
So I thought, what a great idea, and what a great way to burn all this excess energy and get her frustrations out, because she would just tear up clothes for no reason. She was a well-natured dog, but she was just a frustrated dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just found a harness. It wasn't the right harness, but I would get her to pull me on the scooter for kilometers at a time. And then she just started to become a bit more well-mannered. She got rid of all that excess energy, and she became a much nicer dog to be around and have around. Unfortunately, we lost her to a snake bite when I was on a cycling event, and sort of went from there. So our first introduction to just seeing weight pull was on YouTube, following some guys in the States.
Yeah.
From there, I was just down at KCC Park one weekend, and I actually saw a flyer up on the little shed, and said, we do weight pull, and I almost fell over. Like, I've lived here all these years, didn't know that they did weight pull 12 kilometers from my house.
Yeah.
Not only that, it was two separate clubs that ran the events. And I thought, okay, well, this is good. I'm just going to show up and go from there, really. So I basically joined the Amstaff Club knowing that they do weight pull events. I went down, I spoke to a few people. And I just used to show up to every event, even though my dog was underage, just to meet people, to see how it all runs and get a bit of an idea of what I need to do to be able to compete. I'm a competitive person, but with myself. I mean, I like to see all dogs do well, but I'm just competitive with myself, really. And I'm pretty disciplined with how I wanted to train my dog, and the club was great. They were very supportive. They answered any questions that I had, and like most people would probably ask, well, is this going to hurt my dog? How do I make sure I don't do that? And the club was great. So the American Staffy Club, I rate extremely high.
And did they have obviously they've been, they offer weight pull, so they already had carts, or did they have sleds, mate? What did they have? Did they have all the setup ready to go?
Yeah, it was great. So I'd only ever seen people using rails, because that's all I'd seen on YouTube. So they had a cart down there. They had tires as warm up for the dogs, and a range of harnesses as well. So as I was watching them, most people would warm their dog up with a tire. Give their dogs a bit of a rub down, make sure they're good to go, and they'd call them up into the chute, and they had a cart there. Now, I didn't realise the cart weighed as much as what it did when I had first seen it, but I was quite naive to it. So the cart was 160 kilos. I'm like, Jesus, do dogs pull that much weight? And you know, and then as one of the ladies said that, she goes, look, if the dog can pull you on the lead, it can pull the cart.
Yep.
And it sort of put into perspective then. I went, oh, yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Mhm.
And so Lenny was much too young to compete, but they were nice enough to let me just drag a tyre before the event and after.
Yep.
And as soon as he dragged a tyre, I went, that's it. I ordered a harness.
Yep.
And I just showed up, just been a pain in the ass every time they had a competition. So I helped out, you know, put some tiles back and basically got involved that way with the club.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it jumped in, it's gone from there, you know, like as it always does with a lot of us, you know, like it just starts with one little thing and then just, you know, goes and goes and goes, you know. So you know, so you got I suppose we'll talk about it, you know, Lenny, you know, Lenny hits the right age and you know, you jump straight into it. Can you tell us
so
did that?
Yeah, absolutely. So dogs have to be 18 months of age to compete.
Yep.
So I picked up Lenny's harness at probably 14 months of age.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably the best tool. You've got to make sure you've got the right harness.
Yep.
So we went through windshield, got a custom made harness. Mm-hmm. So I knew everything was spot on.
Yep.
And we basically just started dragging a tyre. Yep. It was just a motorbike tyre that they had down there. So there's nothing, nothing fancy.
Yep.
And we basically did that for almost 4 months.
Yeah.
I know people might say, oh, that's a long time. I didn't want to stress him. I didn't want to undermine my dog and put him in a position that he thought something he couldn't do.
Yep.
So we basically just started off nice and light. And it was coming towards the end of the season because of his age. So there was only basically 3 comps left before the season had finished.
Yep.
So we basically trained for a good couple of months and entered him into his first ANKC event, which was also the last one for the season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we went in not expecting, I didn't expect anything. If he can pull the cart, I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people expect too much too early from their dog. So we went in, he pulled the cart, and he did it quite quickly, and he was excited to do it.
Yep.
So in the end, he ended up pulling 322 kilos for his first event.
Yeah.
And I was pumped.
Yep.
I couldn't have been happy with my boy.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that was our thank you. That was our sort of our real first introduction into an ANKC weight pool event.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, there was 2 other events through the Mallee Club, and they were non-ANKC.
Yep.
So he was in a different class, but we rocked up. We competed there. He pulled, I think, over half a ton after that, and then he pulled 664 kilos.
Yeah.
And then that was the season done. So he had 3 great events. Then that gave me almost 8 months to really go, okay, what are we going to do now for next year?
Yep.
And this was, I think, that the most important thing is we had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
We had a program that I'd written up for Lenny.
Yep.
And we stuck to that program religiously.
Yep.
And we smashed it.
Yeah.
Like awesome. we like, not to brag, but in his division, we got first place in every event that we went into.
Yep. From the next season. Yeah. That was the next season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next season we basically we had I'd written up a program which I'll run through our basic program.
Yeah.
So we went through. I changed his diet.
Yep.
We did some very specific exercises to try and improve certain muscle groups.
Yep.
Which I used from my cycle coaching background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd never written a program for a dog, so I was brand new to that.
Yep.
I'd written plenty of programs for cyclists, but never for a dog.
Yep.
So that was something new for me, but I loved it. I really enjoyed doing it and enjoyed, I made a few little mistakes here and there, but, we got those creases out and did extremely well. So 2017 was like our first full season.
Yeah. Yep.
It was awesome.
So, it's super exciting, and I was very much the same. if you look through, we'll talk about programs, in depth a little bit later. But if you look through, trying to find particular programs for dogs in regards to strength programs, there's fuck all out there.
Yeah,
You
there's
can,
nothing.
the best you could find is an old school pit bull keep, where that's
Yeah.
probably that's probably the closest you can get. But once again, depending on where it is and how specific it is, that's about the closest you can find.
Mhm.
There's just not much out there at all. So yeah, I've taken stuff from my human training background as well and incorporated
Yeah.
into the dogs. Yeah, look, there are some differences for sure, but the general concept of whether you're using a linear progression and a deload week, or um, they're depending on what system you want to follow, they can be, the basis can be very similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think in keeping records of everything, I think is quite important to
Mhm.
know, how your dog is actually progressing. I mean, you can't just, slap a whole heap of weight on a dog and just get him to drag and
Mhm.
they've never done it before. I
Yeah.
mean, you and I
Yep.
wouldn't do it, and
Yep.
you're not going to do it to your dog.
Whether you're and if I came to you as a cyclist and said, hey, I want to do a 200k ride, and I've never ridden a bike before. Well, you're not going to start with fucking 200k's,
No,
are you? Or vice versa. You want to run a
no,
marathon.
that's right.
You want to run a marathon. You don't run a marathon in your first week of training. If especially if you've
Absolutely.
never done it before. But
Yep.
before we get into sort of the training and stuff, for those people in Australia, that didn't even know weight pull existed, I've had Jay Jack and I've had Ashley on the podcast before as well. Obviously in the States, they talk about GRC and stuff like that. But some of our
Yep.
listeners might even go, "Holy shit! I didn't even know ANKC did a weight pull, or
That's
I
right.
didn't even know there were other weight pull events within Australia." Can you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about the ANKC events? Where they're offered, obviously at your local, but
Yep.
around Australia.
Yep. Absolutely. So all the weight pull events, whether they're ANKC or just fun days, they're all at
Yep.
the KCC Park in Skye.
Yep.
I don't know I haven't got the address. I think it's
Yep.
655 Western Port Highway in
Yep.
Skye.
Yep.
So the two clubs that run weight pull events are the American Staffy Club of Victoria
Mm.
and the Alaskan Alamute Club of Victoria
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Sometimes their events are slightly different, but if we look at just ANKC events, ANKC events are titled events.
Yep.
So your dog will actually have a title after its name.
Mm.
So they accumulate points. If your dog pulls X amount or a percentage of its body weight over a certain period of time,
Yep.
you can apply for a title.
Yep.
So if we run through some basic rules, I suppose, with ANKC, they've all got to pull the same distance. It's approximately 5 meters.
Mm-hmm.
We run on a natural surface.
Mm-hmm.
So being a winter sport, so it's nice and safe for the dogs, the conditions can actually change. So on a dry surface, your dog might pull a little bit more. If the conditions are not so favorable, your dog might not pull anywhere near its best, but then that's just luck of the draw.
Sure.
On the day. It's not undercover or anything like that. So
Yep.
we've had some pretty wet days where dogs haven't really pulled a lot of weight, but they've worked extremely hard
Yep.
to do that.
Yep.
There is different weight divisions for
Yep.
the dogs. So you've got, for example, 15 to 27 kilo, 27 to 36, 36 to 45, and then a 45 kilo and over category. And they're all, I'll probably say that the smallest category, so 15 to 27, is probably the most competitive. I think there's just more dogs in that weight division.
Yep. Sure.
It's quite a competitive division.
Yep. So with that, for our listeners, do they have to be Dogs Victoria members? Do they have to be pedigree or non-pedigree? What's the process around that?
Okay, so they can be non-pedigree dogs, but you do have to be a member of Dogs Victoria.
Yes.
To compete.
Yep.
If it's a non-pedigree dog, it has to be desexed.
Yep. Yep.
And there is like an affiliate association membership on top of that.
Yep.
But
yep.
in the short of it, pretty much any dog can compete in weight pull in ANKC.
Yep. Yep.
in there.
And the Husky Club, or the Malamute
Yeah.
Club, sorry.
So with the Melbourne Club, theirs is basically the same, but they run a couple of sort of open days, and
Okay.
that's welcome to all breeds.
Yep.
Um, so the only thing is we both clubs have harnesses to hire.
Mhm.
They're small, for example, their small harness probably wouldn't fit your Frenchie, for example. So it'd
Yep.
probably fit a small Stafford.
Yep.
So we can't offer it to really small dogs,
Yep.
just because we don't have the equipment there.
Yep.
But if someone had their own, they would be more than welcome to come to an open day or a fun day and compete with their dog.
Yep. And so the Malamute Club work under the ANKC banner as well?
They do, absolutely. So
Mhm.
with their ANKC events, and again, they're all for titles and points
Yep.
as well. But
Yep.
yeah, so they basically all run under the ANKC events. Fun days are a little bit different. You know, we
Yeah.
can sort of mix and match and make up our own rules
Yep.
on fun days or training days.
Yep.
But there is some pretty strict rules for the dog safety
Mhm.
as far as ANKC goes.
Yep.
The biggest, I suppose, the main rules are the heat. We don't want any dogs to have any heat stroke. So
Mhm.
to compete, it's got to be in the chute. It's got to be under 20 degrees.
Yep. Yep.
We have a VCA rep, which is basically there to keep an eye on everything, represent the dog, make sure that
Mhm.
there's no, all the dogs are in fine condition,
Yep.
that nothing's gone pear-shaped on the day.
Yep.
We've also got, excuse me, we've got a judge on the day,
Mhm.
so they can, if they see anything that's unfit, they can call that and they can scratch a dog from an event.
Yep.
You've also got shoot handlers. So again, if they see anything, if the dog looks lame in any way, they can call on that, and then that's pretty much the dog done.
Yep.
So there's plenty of people there keeping an eye out for the dog's best interest all
Yeah,
the
for
time.
sure, for sure. And for those judges or those shoot handlers, ANKC, are they providing like courses or qualifications for that sort of program at the moment?
Uh, they will be, like for judging, there will be. As
Yeah,
far as being a shoot handler, look,
yeah,
it's mainly people who are just waiting for their dog to have a go and
sure.
jump in the chute
Yep,
and, just control the chute so it doesn't, run into the dog or anything like that. So that
yep,
you don't need to be,
mm,
anyone can just, most people are happy to help out and put their hand up to do that.
yep,
As far as the judge goes here, there is, they're just about to start a judge's course,
yep,
which hopefully I'll be able to do next year if all
yep,
goes well.
yep,
So I can start judging some events as well.
yep,
Um, but otherwise, no, people can just come in and help. The
yep.
handler of the dog in the chute has to be over 16 years of age,
Mm.
but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, awesome. So
Yeah.
obviously you're based in Melbourne. Are there interstate? I just see South Australia doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Is there? Well, I've seen not last year. COVID was a bit fucking all over the place with a few things.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Destroyed everything.
it did. But I did see they had some stuff at Dogs Queensland as well. So can you travel and can you do different events with different clubs?
Yeah, look, we've been to South Australia. We went over with Lenny and
Yep.
Lenny's mate Obi. All went over to South Australia and we competed over there.
Mhm.
But yeah, look, and the guys from SA, they come over.
Yeah.
I can't remember the girls' names, but they've got Mallies and they've got
Yep.
a German Shepherd that's come over.
Mhm.
And because they run theirs on carpet,
Yep.
where we run ours on a natural surface. So it's two
Yep.
different pulling conditions
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
But no, that's great to go interstate. I'd like to do more of it.
Mhm.
Now with the twins, it's probably out of the question. But I'd love to come up to Queensland
Yep.
and compete.
Yep.
But look, it's not off the cards, but it'd be something that I think it'd be nice to have a crack at.
Yeah, I've just been looking at different vehicles, right? And obviously,
Mhm.
I normally have a ute, or for our listeners in the States, like a pickup. But when we've got twins and dogs and double prams and things like that, my wife's like, yeah, maybe we need a van, and you need to get a dog trailer, all right, for the dogs, because they're not going to go in the back of the van,
Yep.
to try and fit everything in, and to go away, at the moment with 1-year-olds is a little bit tough, isn't it?
Oh, it's hard. It is very hard. we should have bought a van as well.
Yeah, it's on the cards for us in the next few months,
Yep.
Mate, but let's let's talk about before we move on, actually, while I think of it. So what sort of numbers dogs out there pulling? Obviously you mentioned Lenny, hit that, was it 660? Sorry,
Yeah, yeah, he's hit 660. Look, look, every dog is different, and because it's power to weight based.
Yep.
So we've seen dogs down here pull, well over a ton.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know, when for the guys in the States listening, it probably doesn't sound like a lot.
Yep.
To what compared to what their dogs are pulling, but we have to take into account that it is on a natural surface.
Yep.
It's a lot harder than pulling on rails.
Yeah. And I was just about to say that the rail system and the cart system, obviously, on a natural surface, they're two very different things.
Yeah, it's so I mean, look, most dogs, like I said, will pull. I mean, we've seen small dogs pull over half a ton, which is extremely impressive.
Yep.
We've seen some Malleys, some Rotties. Again, they've pulled over a ton.
Yep.
And which is great. So as part of the like prizes and things like that, so we have each division will have also the best power to weight on the day.
Yep.
And the highest weight pulled on the day as well. So it gives all the dogs a good chance to hopefully come home with a ribbon. And some proud owners.
Yeah, for sure.
As well.
Yeah, mate. So let's we'll jump back to training. So like you said, you went down for 4 months. You dragged the Tyre, and you just had this thirst for information and knowledge. Started googling some stuff. Obviously, we both know there's not a hell of a lot out there. Hence why part of the education progress is this podcast talking about how people can get started and stuff like that. Where did it go? You took your cycling background, and your cycling training background, and it's like, all right, let's go. What do I need to do? So let's talk about how your philosophy, or how you sort of put the pieces together to train.
Okay, so if you look at, we're new to the sport.
Yeah.
So I basically wrote out probably an 8-month plan.
Yep.
We've got about 8 months to our next comp.
Yep.
I've been competitive. I wanted to win it.
Yep.
Thought, the club spoke about points and trophies. I went, it'd be nice to have a trophy. Yep. So I basically started with, I had my harness. I bought the best harness I could afford to make sure my dog was as comfortable as possible. Now, Lenny was he was in the 15 to 27 kilo mark, and he was around that 27 kilos. So I thought, I'm going to start changing his diet. And that's when I really got into looking at raw diet and how can I give him the best nutrition. So we started off with feeding. So we gave ourselves 3 to 4 weeks to trim him down.
Yep.
So we started slowly introducing a raw diet. So we gave ourselves 4 weeks so I wouldn't upset him in any way, and see what he liked and what he didn't like. So we basically started off with feeding first, and that was our part of our preparation.
Yep.
For that. And with your background as well, we started off with a base. We needed a base, and we started off. So we gave ourselves anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks of just drag work.
Yeah.
Now we have to think this was coming into summer, so we were out first thing in the morning before it got too hot to do some drag work.
Yep.
And we started off, and people laughed at me because I was only getting him to pull 2.5 kilos.
Yep.
This is a dog that was starting to trim down a little bit. 2.5 kilos is not a lot of weight, but I didn't want to upset him in any way. I just wanted to. It was 12 weeks of training, so it's a lot of dragging we were going to do.
Yeah. Yep.
So we basically just started just dragging a small weight, and we did a lot of volume, but very low intensity work.
Yep.
So we would drag that for 2, 3, 4 kilometers sometimes, with plenty of stops in between.
Yeah.
And we did that for quite a few weeks.
Yeah. And that's interesting, like literally I had someone message me late last night, hey dude, just, my harness should arrive this week. Where do I start? I'm like, look, let's start with, 10% of body weight, no more, for a kilometer,
Yeah.
or if, in the States, if you're listening in, we're talking, very little, half a mile, like,
Yeah. So,
something
yeah,
like that. About 800 meters, I
so,
think, is about a half a mile, and a full
well,
mile's
yep,
1600. So,
yep,
just start off at 10% of the dog's body weight for either, I say, a kilometer, but
order, yeah,
you might go, half a mile, just while you're
absolutely.
just while you're getting started. And I like the fact that you mentioned, lots of volume but low intensity.
Yep.
uh, it's super important that we give our dogs, time for not just their their muscles, their ligaments, their tendons, their neurological pathways to adapt to pulling something, regularly if they've never done it before.
That's right. I mean, this is the, if you do this wrong, this is the best way to crush your dog.
Yeah,
And then that's what we're not in it for that. We're here to make sure our dogs enjoy what they do.
that's right.
So yeah, so we basically did that for. I mean, look, Lenny had already done a little bit, so we probably
Yep.
didn't do quite 12 weeks. We probably did 10 weeks of
Yep.
just base work. So it was very low intensity.
Yep.
Then we started our build phase
Yep.
in our training.
Yep.
Now this was for us to develop, I suppose, the key ingredients for weight pull, which was power. We wanted to work on our strength,
Yep.
our force, and our muscular endurance. So this was to try and marry all those together.
Yeah.
So this was probably the most important part of our training. So this was about 8 weeks of training.
Yep.
And our drag work became a little bit more intense. So we went from 10% dragging.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite a big jump to 25%.
Yep.
But our distance became lower. So we went from that mile of dragging,
Yep.
just to half a mile.
Yep.
So we increased our overall weight, but we dropped our distance.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting closer to the 8-week mark, this is when we started to really put our power and our force. So we wanted Lenny's muscles to pull this maximum force in the shortest period of time. Yep. So we started. So we bought a sled, and then we started increasing weights, and this was only to pull it for about 6 to 10 meters.
Yes,
not very far,
yep.
but longer than what the chute was.
Yep.
So we started at 50% of Lenny's body weight,
yep.
which was about 12 kilos.
Yep.
And we would just get him to drag that 5 times. And again, not big numbers. And a few people laughed at me for this.
Yeah.
Because they're like, it's only a short distance. I'm like, well, that's all we need to do. We just want that explosive power.
Yep.
Or that force.
Yep.
So basically each week we just increased it by a little bit.
Yep.
To bring us up to that 8 weeks. And in the end, it was pretty much pulling or dragging his own body weight.
Yep.
I thought that's all he needs to do. He doesn't need to, to do any more than that.
Yeah.
And then we basically worked backwards. So we picked when our first comp was in 2017, and then we worked backwards from there. So I could get him to try and peak at the right time.
Yep.
So he was physically fit straight away in the first comp. We gave him a week of, once we finished our build period, we basically gave him a week before the comp. We reduced everything. So we went back to almost our really light drag work, which he found, he was running with it rather than walking.
Yep.
He was looking good. He was looking fit.
Yep.
And then we had our competition.
Yeah, awesome.
And first comp back, he pulled 680 kilos.
Yeah, awesome.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, no,
and then,
awesome.
And that's our. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, did you, just randomly that you, obviously the big key is injury prevention, right? We want to make sure that we build our dogs up, and they're ready to go for their first competition, with no injuries, healthy as. So did you have, recovery sessions or, sort of deload weeks and things like that? Do you incorporate that type of stuff into your training?
Absolutely. So what I found with Lenny was, and we still do that now, we have certain days that he does nothing. He doesn't go for a walk. He just sits back and relaxes. So I use walking as our active recovery day.
Yep.
For two reasons. Firstly, it gets him out, stretches his muscles if we've done a big event, a big drag session.
Yep.
The other thing is it also allows me to see if he's pulled up lane.
Yep.
Because if you just, so we'll just go for a walk around the block. He's just a normal dog.
Yep.
And then it gives me a chance to have a look at his paws, see if he's walking a little bit funny, and you can pick up on things like that. The other, I suppose, activities we do as a like an active recovery is I'll take him swimming.
Yeah.
We'll go down to the dam, and he can. There's no time limit on that. He can swim all day if he likes.
Yep.
Down to the dam as his as a recovery day. But absolutely, I mean, our three main principles, and again, I've taken this from our cycling coaching background, is we eat, we sleep, and then we train.
Yep.
Because if you just train, you feed your dog not the greatest diet, and there's no recovery, you're going to burn your dog out.
Yep.
So we'll eat first, sleep, and then we train. So that's Lenny and I's little philosophy on how we train.
Yeah.
It might not be perfect, and it might not work for every dog, but for us, as he's getting a little bit older, works great, and we've tweaked. You can't keep the same training as a dog gets older, I believe. So we will tweak it, and he actually gets a lot more rest time now.
Yes.
As he's coming up to 6. He's not that he's an old dog.
Yep.
But he's competing against dogs that are 2 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's so we'll do now. We'll basically do 1 day of training, 1 day active recovery, and then a day off.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and that's sort of like I've got Noah here who's I think you might have seen his GSP is 5.5. I just calculate I've had him for 6 months now. But we're going to be looking to compete against dogs in bike jaw that are 2 years old, in their prime. At the end of the day, we'll have a great time, we'll have fun, but we're not. We're not sort of expecting huge results. We'll just go out and we'll have a great time. However, as you probably, you start thinking about your pup and your next dog, and how you're going to prime that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I need a bigger yard for more dogs.
I know exactly. There's another conversation for my wife. Yeah, can we move to acreage?
Yeah.
Well, I want a car or a van first, and then maybe in a couple of years we'll think about it.
Yeah, I've already had that discussion with my wife to move to a bigger block, and I could do with another bully. So
that's right.
It's you're right. Like I said, it's he's not getting on, and same with your GSP, they're not getting on, but they are for some sporting events.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll probably do a gradual progression into probably dock diving or something like that.
Yep.
With that, it's not as physically demanding on him as he gets a little bit older, but something that he still loves.
Yep.
To keep him fit and active.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That gives our our listeners a bit of an insight on building up, having those, ensuring they have the nutrition, the active recovery, and having a calculated plan and strategy. How many people just think, as you mentioned before, fuck, I'm going to pull 1,000 kilos straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, if every dog can do that, we'd all be champions at weight pull.
Mm-hmm.
And to be perfectly honest, Lenny is not the greatest weight pull dog by any stretch of the imagination. There's other dogs and I don't know how he's done that he's beaten.
Yeah.
But when you look at his technique versus other dogs' techniques, Lenny's technique is actually shithouse.
Yeah.
To be honest, he, like a friend of ours, Emma, with their dog Obi, he has got the perfect technique.
Yeah.
I idolize how, I don't know if they've taught him that.
Yeah.
Lenny, he's just a typical bully. He just looks around and just does it.
Yep.
And I'm like, mate, put your head down and pull.
Yep. Yeah.
When he looks up and he looks up at the judge and pulls. Like, mate, what are you doing? So there's there's some great dogs that we've competed with that have got awesome techniques, which like I said, Lenny's just the joker.
Yeah, no, awesome.
Bully.
Yeah. Awesome. In your opinion, like obviously we're based here in Australia. I wanted to throw this out to you as well. Where do you see, obviously since 2016, where weight pull was, where it is now, and where do you feel, it's sort of going or has potential to go? Obviously, this is just your opinion, mate. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you're welcome to give us, your own personal views on that.
Look, I think, I mean, what I like, I mean, look, ANKC is great, and I love it, and I love that you get titles for your dogs.
Yep.
There's only basically two titles.
Yep.
There's a, oh god, memory blank. There's a, there's one if the dog pulls 8 times its body weight, and
Yep.
then you've got one that if it pulls 16 times its body weight.
Sure.
And then once the dogs have received those two titles, that's pretty much it. Most people we won't see again.
Okay.
Which I think is a bit disappointing because we go down because we love it. The dogs
Yep.
enjoy it.
Yep.
Their outlet. Where some people will just stop
Yep.
after that. The fun events, I think, which is great because there's no titles. You just come down, you have a go.
Mm.
I think I can't see this sport evolving probably as much as the States because we are a bit of a nanny state here, and people just don't understand. I mean, I've been booted off a couple of Facebook pages because they saw Lenny pulling a lot of weight and they said, "Oh, that's too much for a little dog."
Sure.
Well, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Yep.
And the great thing about weight pull is you can't force your dog.
Yep.
We stand 5 meters away. You can't hold toys or treats.
Yep.
And your dog just has to want to do it. So I think definitely education is the key.
Yep.
And I think people need to come down and see actually how much, behind the scenes work goes into having a weight pull dog.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual comp day is the easy part.
Yep.
It's getting your dog ready for that day. So I think definitely we have to educate people and probably do more fun days so people can actually see this is what we actually do. And I know there's some breeds that, like I said, in the States, they have Chihuahuas competing and things like that. I think that should be open to everyone here in Australia, as long as you've got the right equipment, so it is safe for your dog. Then I think it should be open to every dog. And I think we should also include, just definitely more fun days for people to come down.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that you and I have spoken about the benefit of sled work as well. We know that with the emergence of say some other sports, and I've had Jay Jack on here as well. With the emergence of GRC and stuff like that, there's been a little bit more interest around weight pull, but also the sled, or drag work, like I spoke to Ashley in particular, from CRT about, dogs can be, dogs can benefit from, just dragging, just general physical preparedness for them, for everyday life, just doing drag work. Today, obviously we're focused here about, actual events and competitions, but also seeing, the potential for sleds to, and you can get a decent amount on a sled,
Yeah, for sure. So I'll ask you a question. In your opinion, people ask me this all the time as well.
Yeah.
Dragging chains or dragging tires?
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts?
Look, I'm a chain guy 100%. Because I know I can calculate that chain to the right percentage of the dog's body weight, very, very easily. I'm not sure, you might know, how much does a 4-wheel drive tire weigh versus a motorbike tire? Do you know that?
I wouldn't know.
Me either.
Look, it'd be quite a difference, and that would obviously depend on the size of the dog pulling. I'm big into like having the sled, only because then I can add weights and I can calculate that exactly to what my dog needs to do. I mean, just general pulling, I think, look, I mean, a tire would have to be like a motorbike tire would only have to be a couple of kilos. If that.
That's right. So you jump up from a motorbike tire to a let's just say a car tire or a 4-wheel drive tire. What's the jumps in weight? But look, depending on what surface as well, there's a number of contributing factors around that. But me personally, look, I have chain everywhere, right? I've got chain everywhere. I've got a sled. I owned a gym for a while, so I've got weight plates and things like that as well. I've got probably 300 kilos of weight plates in my garage. But I'm a big advocate for chain. I know that my clients can go down to the hardware store or Bunnings, and they can get they can buy for very little money, percentage of the dog's body weight, 10%. Let's get started. Let's go buy 2 kilos of chain.
Yep.
And you're going to have 2 kilos of chain for a week, maybe 3, 4, whatever that may be. And then you'll need some more. So then you can go buy a little bit more, So,
Yep.
but that's just my personal opinion. I've always used chain, and that comes, that probably comes through, the guidance of Ashley as well from
Yeah.
CRT, but I look at people that do, tires or bits and pieces, for me, you just can't calculate it the way I like,
Yeah,
Hey,
for sure. No.
is it fun? And will your dog pull it? Yeah, potentially, it looks cool, but, if you're going to be serious, and you really want to calculate numbers and percentages and things like that, for me, there's only, chain is the way to
Chain.
go, you know,
And at the end of the day, it is a numbers game. I
yep,
mean, when you look at what your dog weighs to what they've pulled, say, for example, for titles, it's all power to weight.
yep.
So being able to calculate what your dog can actually do is 100% important, to make sure that you can calculate it all correctly.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I'd like to be honest out there. I'm not an ANKC member, and I have never pulled a cart. There's no doubt about that. Hence why getting you on and having a chat about that. But for the listeners out there, for my programs, and then I work with people. It is chains and carts. Sorry, chains and sleds. So moving forward, I'd love to have the chance to try for sure, but they're just not. They're just, for me, it's not 10 minutes down the road.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah. So we're like talking about that. Going back
Yeah,
to the cart, for example. I mean,
yeah,
the cart that we run, and again, there's no real weight limit on the cart, but the cart that we use is 160 kilos,
yep,
and each increment is, so every time your dog pulls, we add another 20 kilos, or the minimum's 20 kilos
yep,
to that. Now,
yep,
some places, I think South Australia, their cart might weigh a little bit less.
yep,
The other reason I do like carts, and I know you've spoken about Jay Jack, and he's big into into sleds.
yep,
I personally like the cart if I had to
yep,
compete over anything else.
yeah,
I think that having the cart gives obviously that dog that momentum, opposed to just a dead weight as
yep,
such.
yep,
But again, that's personal choice. But I think sleds are perfect for training. But as far as competitions, yeah, look, I'm a big fan of the cart.
yep,
I've never competed on rails, and we haven't got that option here in Australia. But looks like you've just got to carry too much weight.
yep,
You're constantly loading to carry more weight. So
yeah, yep,
personally, I think the cart's a great. I mean, our cart could, even if it started at 100 kilos for maybe some of the smaller dogs, if we
yeah,
ever had
yeah,
dogs under 15 kilos, but 160 kilos sounds like a lot.
yep,
But every dog that we've had compete, whether they've pulled on the day or not, even in training, they've pulled the cart and they've done it
yeah.
comfortably.
Yeah, awesome. And like I said, I like to be totally transparent and honest here. I've never pulled a cart. So, I can't speak from experience. Hence why you're here on the podcast today, giving us a little bit of insight. And there may be a lot of listeners out there that go, holy shit, I've never done that either. So potentially we'll reach out or come along and want to experience it for sure,
Yeah,
Um, so like I said, in moving forward, look, I'd love to see more, with COVID out of the way. More, events 21, 20, 20, this year, next year, 2022, and, the options to travel would be fantastic.
oh, for sure. Look, like I said, if we could,
Yeah,
if I could travel around Australia
yeah,
and do an event at every state, I'd just to cross it off the bucket list would be awesome.
yeah,
Like I said, if you guys are running an event, I'd love to
yeah.
fly up there with Lenny
Mm,
and have a crack.
mm,
Like I said, I mean, he's getting on a little bit for weight pull, but still, we're just up there to have fun, and it's just meeting new people and like-minded people,
yeah,
to throw around different ideas and different, what works for you, what hasn't worked.
yep,
We're all on the same page,
mm,
with things like this. So it's just good to get out and try different things. But
Yeah.
I think down here, unfortunately, like I said, dogs that have got their titles sort of tend to move on.
Yep.
We got our titles in the first 2 years. We won everything.
Yep.
But we keep going back because it just gives him his outlet that he can pull, and no one's telling him off.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's
Until
awesome.
Yeah, but
Mate.
it's I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it go a little bit further. As far as we've got a training day coming up, for example,
Yep.
and like I've advertised it at all my local gyms.
Yep.
Because I'm like, just to introduce people to the sport,
Yep.
things like that. So I've sort of had to think outside the square. How can I advertise this to not just dog people? Because, like I said, people don't know. They don't know what's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So even hopefully this, people listening, if there's anyone in Victoria or Melbourne, or you can come from interstate, we've got training days coming up. Everything's on the American Staffy Facebook page with any events that are coming up.
Yeah, and I was just about to wrap it up as well. So if anyone wants to find out any information, they're Aussie based. Even if they're in the US and they wanted to reach out, obviously you mentioned the American Staffy Facebook page, and your own. What about your own personal Southeast Canine Athletes? You've got Facebook there.
Yeah, so we've got Facebook and we've also got Instagram where we sort of we'll put up any events coming up, any training days, any we do other harnesses for sledding. So anything that's dog related will be on our Southeast Canine Facebook page and Instagram page. Because we've also got Pinnacle Cycles, which is my business. So everything gets shared between the two pages as well.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
any training days or any other information will always be on those pages.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic. All righty, thank you very much, Paul, for joining us here on the Dogs and Deadlifts podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great. I look forward to doing this again if we can.
Yeah, look, no worries whatsoever. Certainly been great and gives our listeners a good insight about yourself, but also here in Australia, the weight pull events, and I think it's been fantastic. So, guys, if you've liked what you heard today, please feel free to like, subscribe, and also share with your friends, and we'll catch you in the next episode.